The obvious starting point for RPL policy is around particularly in HE, is the national strategy, the Hunt Report of 2011, which called on us to innovate and develop, provide more flexible opportunities for larger and more diverse student cohorts. And it specifically called for a national framework for RPL. And the drivers and benefits of RPL have long been acknowledged, and they're very evident, they're very self-evident in the work that's happening here. I think we've got about 5 or 6 different colleges here at the moment. It's interesting to note that there are 19 publicly funded higher education institutions, excluding the colleges of education in the country. All 19 have published RPL, but what's astounding is the difference in their RPL policy, the scope of what they provide. Yesterday, the HEA published to the institutes the spatial and socio-economic profile of the overall contribution of higher education and individual institutions. And what's interesting is that the deeper the red, the more the actual amount of people who are actually in higher education. So for example, in some parts of Dublin, and you can spot them particularly in Southside Dublin, you've got almost 100% participation in, or significantly higher participation rates than say in Dublin 1, Dublin 3. Whereas in certain parts of the country, say for example in the southeast where we're from, you've got Wexford and Laois who are well below. So the power of RPL to make a difference there is self-evident. And in fact, in the National Plan for Equity of Access to Higher Education, that is actually said. It says that RPL could actually deliver on some of this, okay? The other key driver for RPL in our sector at the moment is the work, and I don't need to follow Ronan with this, but it's the work that employers are asking us to do. Ronan spoke about Boston Scientific and the work with Cork IT. We have a very similar initiative, you already know, with the Defence Forces, but we also do an awful lot of work with VHI along the very similar lines. What's particularly pleasing is at the moment we've got about 4,000 lifelong learners in Carlow. About 20% of those are availing of some degree of RPL, either by virtue of exemption from some elements of the programme or advanced entry. The one thing we don't have in Carlow yet, to our shame, is the full award by RPL. But one of the most powerful days you can have, and try not to forget this at any time, is the learner, is the conferring ceremony. To date, we've graduated almost 1,000 students from the Defence Forces using RPL. And it's on days like that that you realise that you're actually making a first generation impact, that you're looking at people who would never have gone to college or would never have graduated unless you'd actually put in place the systems to make that happen. And then you're looking at their kids sitting in the conferring hall, looking at their dad or their mum in a conferring gown and going, I can do that as well. That is the difference you're making. It might necessarily be today, but it could be in 20 years' time. The other key thing that's happened with regard to the skills in workforce development, and I don't want to cut across the work of Oran either, is what's happened with the Regional Action Plan for Jobs, and particularly the Regional Skills Fora. They have brought to our doorsteps what the employers want, and that's just been so powerful. I mentioned already that I spoke in Dublin Castle a few weeks ago about the public sector, and the public sector are now beginning to realise the power of RPL and its sister, work-based learning. I think it was who referred to the sister was Kira. Absolutely goes hand in hand. And we had a talk, and Deep Pair talking about 320,000, the biggest sector in the country, 320,000 civil and public servants who are crying out for work-based learning. The performance compacts have also hugely impacted, and anyone who's in ETB, you've all already gone through a similar process, and again I'm not going to cut across what Justin's going to say, which is the SOLAS strategic performance agreements. But it's great to see some kind of coherence coming across. I was looking at our neighbouring ETBs in the southeast, Wexford, Waterford, Kilkenny, Carlow and Laois Offaly, and all of them reference the connectivity either to ourselves or Waterford or Athlone, and they talk about that progression. And I think if we can actually build on that and bring in the RPL connectivity, that would be really powerful. The one thing that's missing from the performance compacts, and this is not a criticism of either side, but I think there should be more coherence between QQI and the HEA around the performance compacts, particularly for our sector. There is obviously the work that's happening on access, transfer and progression. I would love to see RPL be a key topic under that. The power also of the Innovation and Transformation Fund. I'm delighted to see that there are projects who have successfully got RPL funding under that. Particularly like to say well done to WIT on their work in that area. It's great to see that happening. And I think we can see more of that. We can see the opportunity of it. The real question is, what impact have the various policies, such as the National Skills Strategy, etc., had? Do I believe that we have best practice happening in higher education? Yes, I do. The work undertaken in some institutions is excellent. Some of the work undertaken within the NUI institutions is excellent. I think it's excellently presented, excellent information. Is it consistent? Absolutely not. Okay, and I think everyone can see a lot of nodding heads there. Do I believe we have much more to do? Yes, I believe so. The Human Capital Initiative is a great initiative. It's great to see this coming. It's just been announced by the government in Budget 2019. They're allocating, it looks like, around 10 million to specific RPL projects to aim at about 2,500 students in higher education. That will have a huge impact. That will force us to, in effect, mainstream RPL. And by mainstreaming means we have the money there to make it happen. It forces us as institutions to commit and to make it a national initiatives. It'll encourage debate, not as a blocker. There is a degree of nervousness in higher education staff among RPL, about RPL. So to overcome that nervousness, it'll help us provide more and clearer information, and it will help to build upon the work that's been done by people like Deirdre Goggin and the work of the Teaching and Learning Forum led by Terry Maguire. So basically that's, I suppose, the key message is that we can lead through policy as well as learn from practice. So just to say thank you all very much.